Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're unpacking a really interesting set of sources on XRP. It's sitting at, well, a critical point right now in July 2025. Our goal here is to cut through the noise, give you the important stuff, and really show you what's been going on. Market, legal, strategy, all of it. It's not just, another crypto story. It's about how these digital assets actually navigate the real world.
Absolutely. And what's fascinating, I think, is how the end of that long legal fight with the SEC, it's now clearing the path for some really ambitious moves by Ripple, the company affiliated with it. We're talking a pretty big shift from even just a year ago.
Okay, yeah, let's dig into that legal battle. It was huge. Started back in December 2020, right?
Mm-hmm.
The SEC basically said Ripple did a $1.3 billion unregistered securities offering.
That's right. But then came that landmark ruling, July 2023, from Judge Torres. And she drew this really crucial line. She said, okay, direct institutional sales were securities. That led to the $125 million penalty for Ripple.
But here's the kicker, right? The sales on public exchanges to regular retail buyers. The court said those didn't count as securities transactions. Huge win for Ripple, yeah.
Massive. And it really reshaped things. I mean, the judge even just rejected a lower settlement offer, the $50 million one. She basically said the final judgment is important for the whole legal community.
Okay.
And then both sides dropped their appeals. So that ruling, that specific distinction, is pretty much locked in now. And that clarity, that's what everyone sees as like the last hurdle for a spot XRP ETF here in the U.S., Bloomberg analysts. They've bumped the approval odds way up to 95%.
Wow, 95%. So with that legal stuff mostly settled,
yeah,
what's Ripple doing? Just taking a victory lap?
Oh, far from it. That clarity seems to have really kicked things into high gear.
Right. They launched the XRPL EVM side chain just, end of June, June 30th. That brings Ethereum compatibility over to the XRP ledger.
Exactly, which is a big deal for developers.
Yeah, lets them build DeFi stuff, smart contracts, using tools they already know. And you need this EXRP, this wrapped XRP, to pay for transactions there. They're aiming for like 1,000 transactions a second. Super low fees, too, sub-penny gas.
And that's just one piece. You got to connect it to the bigger picture. Ripple's also making a serious play for that institutional trust. They've got the regulated stablecoin, RLUSD.
Ah, yeah, through standard custody, their New York regulated subsidiary.
Right. And this is pretty ambitious. They're actually applying for a U.S. national bank charter and a Fed master account.
Whoa, okay, so hold reserves directly at the Fed.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, think about the regulatory legitimacy that gives them. It's almost putting them on par with traditional banks in that sense. Unparalleled in crypto, really.
And we're seeing real-world use, too, aren't we? That Weebus International Partnership, July 1st, they got a $100 million equity line from Ripple.
To use XRP for instant cross-border payments.
Yeah.
And loyalty programs for their drivers globally.
So, I mean, it sounds incredibly positive. Legal clarity, new tech, real adoption. Is there a catch? Or is it just smooth sailing from here?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Because the market intelligence, it paints a slightly more nuanced picture. Sure, XRP is holding strong, rank #4, price between, say, $2.17 and $2.29. Existing holders seem to be adding more.
Oh.
But, and this is interesting, the number of new addresses being created on the ledger, it's basically flat, which kind of suggests the current momentum might be more speculative, people anticipating that potential ETF approval.
Ah, the ETF hype.
Exactly. And we're also seeing these dormant whales, big long-term holders moving coins onto exchanges. That could signal they're getting ready to sell when the news hits, that classic buy the rumor, sell the news scenario. So for you listening, just keep in mind, even good news like an ETF might trigger selling by those in the know.
Right. It's a really interesting contrast, isn't it? The whole investment case for XRP, it seems to have fundamentally changed. You've got the regulatory win, the expanded utility with the EVM sidechain. That's a strong bull case. But then fierce competition in DeFi, right? And maybe even their own stablecoin, RLUSD, could potentially eat into XRP's original payment use.
That's a valid point. And it also brings up that perennial question, the centralization issue.
Yeah.
Critics always point to Ripple's large XRP holdings, their influence.
Yeah.
Ripple argues back, the ledger needs 80% consensus from independent validators for changes. But here's the fascinating part, maybe a paradox. What some crypto purists see as a flaw, this centralized entity, that might be exactly what appeals to the big regulated financial institutions. They want accountability, support.
So pulling it all together, what's the takeaway? XRP seems like it's really evolved from just being a bridge currency to, a whole diversified blockchain ecosystem now. Its future really hangs on whether these new ventures work out and how the market reacts to things like that potential ETF.
Absolutely. It makes XRP this really compelling case study in how these digital assets change over time. And it leaves us with a pretty provocative thought, I think,
Hmm.
in this constantly shifting world of digital finance. How do we actually balance that ideal, that crypto ideal of decentralization with the very practical needs of big companies and, well, regulators?
Something definitely to chew on.